Hello. As a national company, eezirent has a bird's eye view of the rental market across Australia. We get to see what's renting, where, for how much, how long they're taking to fill. We also get excellent feedback from our landlord clients across the nation. So we thought rather than keep this valuable information a secret, we're going to start sharing it in the form of regular market updates via our Facebook page. So let's get started. Now there are some parts of the country that are really doing it tough in terms of rentals at the moment, and Western Australia is probably the best example of this. Our WA landlords are facing high rates of break lease, reduced rents, protracted vacancies. It's a big turnaround from the days of the mining construction boom when anything in Western Australia was rented basically straight away and for a high price. Many of our WA landlords are having to make tough decisions about their rents, often having to reduce it by a considerable amount. We've had some landlords who've had to drop their rent by $100, even $200. It's not all bad news for WA though. I have heard and have read that there are signs of a turnaround in the property home sales market. Now, if these green shoots continue into 2017, that should be good news for the rental market as well, because generally speaking, if property sales are strong, rentals will also be strong. If we move up to the Northern Territory, specifically Darwin, we see another example of a flat rental market at the moment. There were some big infrastructure projects on the go in Darwin, but they've come to a conclusion and there doesn't seem to be any work to keep workers and therefore tenants in that town. Over in the eastern Queensland, specifically far north and Townsville, we see a market with really high vacancy rates. The vacancy rate in Townsville at the moment is over 5%. Now anything over 2% is seen as a tenant's market. This means that tenants are able to influence the rental prices because there are simply far more properties than there are tenants who want to use them. Moving down to Brisbane, in the inner city and inner ring suburbs, particularly for older stock, we're seeing a real downturn in inquiry. Now by older stock, I mean old units and townhouse complexes that have to compete with the brand new apartments that are coming online in Brisbane by the dozen. The landlords of the older stock simply can't compete with this new product. Tenants are turning their back on the older apartments in favour of something that's brand new and at a comparable rent, and often offering interesting rent incentives. Who wouldn't want an iPad just for moving into a new apartment? I even know of some buildings that are offering to pay the tenants moving expenses if they sign up. It's not all doom and gloom though, there are some bright spots. And if we stay in Brisbane, we starting to see a return of the corporate tenant. Now corporate tenants tend to prefer high-end product in the CBD and the inner suburban areas. In the recent years, 12 to 18 months say, we've seen that market contract. Those tenants have just moved back to Melbourne and Sydney basically. This time last year, our CBD building manager clients were struggling to get inquiries, let alone tenants. However, in recent weeks, they've reported that they've had no trouble finding tenants. In fact, they've had multiple applications for their products, for their vacancies. Now this is really good news because a strong CBD corporate tenant market means a strong economy, and that is going to flow on to the rest of the rental market. North and south of Brisbane, Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast continues to be a strong rental market. Properties in these places never seem to last long, and they always seem to be like that too, so they're very consistent rental sectors, the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast. Adelaide's an interesting place. South Australia has really struggled in 2015 and 2016. We've had lots of our South Australian landlords really having to face long vacancy times on their properties until recently. In the past few weeks, we've had some long-standing South Australian properties that have been tenanted, and recently anything that gets listed in Adelaide in particular seems to move very quickly. So this is good news for South Australia, and hopefully it continues into 2017 because that state has really done it tough. So if we look at the remaining states, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania and the ACT, Good product at a good price never stays vacant for long in these areas. So what can we say about the overall rental market in Australia? Basically, it's patchy. And personally, I think the rental market responds far more to local, economic and social factors rather than any national trend. So for you as a landlord, this means you've really got to be in touch with what's happening in your local rental market and respond accordingly. Particularly if you've got a vacancy coming up soon and you haven't had to find a tenant for some time, you might find that your rental market has changed considerably. This makes it essential that you have a current rent appraisal done on your property. Now, we've recently launched our blog, The Honest Broker. You can find it at honestbroker.eezirent.com.au. I urge you to go online and take a look because you'll find one of our articles is a step-by-step guide on how to do your own rent appraisal simply by using the information available on realestate.com and Domain. I'm sure you'll find it really helpful. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to being back in the new year with our next market update.